Well, the public trust in the judicial system in Nigeria is under very hot scrutiny. Many senior advocates, senior lawyers in the Federation gathered and had very strong conversations about which way we are going with the judicial process in the country. Political influence, allegations of corruption, and many other things, factors that are threatening the justice and system in the country, and as well as our judiciary. People like Yemi Osinbajo, Pat Utomi, and many others had this conversation. We're going to dive into everything in this story. Welcome to News Insights on Landslide News. My name is Chinwe Blessing, and joining me this morning, two interesting young men. Today I choose to call them interesting. Malam Okafo.
Thank you.
Good morning, sir. And Mr. Philip, before I call him by the name that will make him show me to God.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I like that we are starting today on a little bit of a calm, yeah? But how serious do you think, I'm starting with you, Mr. Philip, how serious do you think the crisis of public confidence in the Nigerian judicial system is? Are we at a breaking point? Are we almost at a breaking point? Is there hope?
If you ask me what is the state of the Nigerian judiciary at this point, and you are trying to measure it with breaking or not breaking point, I will tell you we've gone far beyond breaking point. We are already in a pit. Just yesterday, you saw what happened at the Supreme Court.
Absolutely.
A matter that has naturally is gone, because whichever decision they reached yesterday is of no effect. The matter has become, a mere academic exercise that the Supreme Court took their time and to somersault, like 100 times. What kind of judiciary is there? You see, even the Mr. President, during the judges' conference in Abuja here, I think it's about on the 17th of November, he admonished the judges. And he told them that the justice should not be for sale. They should be up and doing, they should be upright in giving judgment. And you are here asking me if the judiciary are the breaking point. They are already breaking. They are in pieces. You see, that is why the likes of the former Vice President of Nigeria, Yemi Osinbajo, and a senior advocate of Nigeria, a very senior lawyer for that matter, a former Attorney General of Lagos State and Commissioner for Justice, had said that, look, this is the time for reform. The judiciary need to go back to the drawing board and to see what they can do to save their face, because the public has lost confidence. Nobody wants to go to court anymore. Is it that the matter will be there forever, or they will not even get justice if the judgment is given? For instance, still on this state of emergency in Rivers State, the state of emergency was declared in March, and then for 6 months, 6 months come and go, and the suspension was elapsed, and the president reinstated the suspended governor, which was the subject matter. 2 months after, the Supreme Court is giving, judgment. What confidence do you think the public will have? Those plaintiffs, if they have another matter tomorrow, what make you think they will want to go to court? Because what they went to court for has taken care of itself before the court now realize that they need to do justice. So that's to tell you the extent the judiciary had gone in terms of decaying.
Well, okay, Malam Okafo, Osinbajo says that many of the judicial conflicts that we suffer from today can be avoided. Is this something you agree with? And if it is, where are we getting it wrong?
Yeah, we're getting it wrong in many cases. Justice Habib Abiru of Supreme Court made a statement one time that it takes an average of 14 years for a case to go through to Supreme Court. 14 years. Somebody given birth, if you were born today and before the case comes, you're already 14 years, you're already thinking of studying law.
That's almost 2 10 years.
You understand? So that in itself is injustice. If we can attack the delay, how do we attack the delay? We come to the resources of justice administration itself. The judges, the same judge that takes on marriage counseling or marriage issues of divorce, the same judge is taking on criminal cases, the same judge is taking on civil cases. That interest rate you paid me was not as we agreed, that the loan I extended to you didn't pay as I agreed, you went to tamper the collateral that you presented for the loan and things like that. You see, the same judge the same court system. So by the time you jungle all these things together, you see how the delay is going. Also coupled with the bar insincerity. They will present themselves for hearing this one. The next one, they're not going to come. They're seeking adjournment where not necessary, and all those. So there's a saying out there that even the ranking of lawyers as professionals have tanked, is declined, just slightly above politicians and above salesmen. Imagine a well-respected profession just declining because of ethics. They have abandoned ethics. A lot needs to come into play. Look at the justice we saw yesterday. Is that justice? When we say as the Lord pleases, I can tell you that the people's trust will increase if truly that judgment was as the Lord pleased, not as the politician pleased. So by the time you say as the Lord pleases, and it was actually not as the Lord pleased, it was as someone else pleased, you see that the trust of people on the judiciary would decline. Pato told me maybe remarkable that this damage to their reputation has happened more on political cases.
So I was just going to ask you, because you did mention it, so that means you're agreeing that political interference is one of the biggest examples.
Yes, when it comes to reputational damage, Pato Tommy was very, very clear on that, and it's not too different from what we have seen. There has not been real abstraction, like the people might call it, between the people's expectation and that of the judgment when it comes to criminal cases. There's never uproar, how did it happen? But when it comes to political cases, we saw in Imo State somebody that was number 4th. He was the 4th person in the number of votes cast as declared by INEC. But at the end of the day, he ended up becoming the governor, a 2-term governor. How would people trust that judiciary system? How? Somebody at the 4th position, how did he jump the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and to the 4th? What happened? Those people, were they disqualified by pre-election matter? How?
Now I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to link it to one of the cases we saw that is causing a lot of, questions, bringing about a lot of question in the country, in the judicial system in the country, and that's the case of Nnamdi Kanu, juxtaposing it with the case of the Boko Haram terrorist that was convicted to 25 years, and on similar counts of terrorism. Nnamdi Kanu was given life. Is this one of the cases where you would say that decisions were made that make people question the stance or the fairness of the Nigerian justice system?
Certainly, yes. When you listen to Osinbajo, before coming to your question, he pointed out two areas that we need to tackle, to reduce the decay in the judiciary, that is in reforming the judiciary. He did say that the problem, with the judiciary is the appointment of the judges, that the politician had a lot of influence in appointing the judges, and that watered down to taking decisions in court. He said at the federal level is the chief judge, and at the state level the governor has sway on who becomes, become a judge in the state high court and the federal high court, respectively. Now, the question you ask, whether the decision in Nnamdi Kanu's case, terror case, and that of Boko Haram, which is also equally a terror case, with different, punishment. If that is one of the reasons where we can say that yes, this decision were taken behind the court, behind before the judge comes to the open to pronounce it. You see, it shouldn't be so, because the law is clear. If they charge the people for the punishment is attached to it. That's why we said, he has been convicted, but he has not been sentenced. Right? In sentencing, the judge could apply some discretion to say, okay, we are minimizing the punishment, but it's still within those laws, spare time. So I don't know how they reached the decision of sentencing him to life imprisonment, because they said that it was supposed to be death sentence for Nnamdi Kanu, but the judge is being magnanimous to reduce it to life sentence. If Nnamdi Kanu is charged for terrorism, and the man who is a Boko Haram suspect is also charged for terrorism, and the punishment is the same, I don't know if there are stages of terror that you have to commit so that your punishment cannot be. You see, this go to show how decay the judiciary has become. So the call for the reform is exposing the decayedness in the judiciary. That is why Osinbajo had suggested that the appointment of judges should be removed from where it's coming from at the moment, so that the politician will not have influence in appointing who become a judge. Because you see, when you recommend me to become a judge, and it's very clear you took my name and I become a judge.
If you made me a judge,
if a matter comes to my court and the person reaches you, there's no way when you reach me that I will not do your bidding. So that is why Osinbajo is arguing that the mode of appointing judges in Nigeria should be looked at. That is, if we want to reform the judiciary, that is one of the key things that we need to, look at. Like, for instance, in the United States, judges are elected for a period. They are not there for life. It's only the Supreme Court that are there for life. So we should rejig our judiciary, especially by way of appointment. Appointing our judges.
So now, besides the appointment, right, we know that there's also a place of personal interest. Can we trust that the character, and I'm speaking now to the character of individuals that would become judges, or character of Nigerians generally? One thing I do believe is, if there's a problem at the top, it means that there has been a rot at the bottom. It starts from the bottom. Do you think that people wouldn't abuse that position? Do we have enough faith in the people of Nigeria that even if we reform these laws and say it's not based on appointment, I wouldn't want to do the bidding of whoever is in power so that I could gain some kind of favor off of that? Can we trust that, or are we saying that the problem is solely based on the fact that these people are being appointed?
You see, in human nature, our attitude, characters, no matter how stable they are still subject to some dynamism. You understand? People change. There's no doubt about that. So that is why there must be a system in place. And when the system is in place to check people's character as at that time, that system is expected to also be functional from time to time. You don't just check somebody today and you believe the person is going to remain the same thing in 10 years' time. There should be a place, a monitoring system. I do know NJC is that institution is actually where NJC comes in. They do monitor, but in recent, are they working? So that's what Osinbajo is now going ahead for us to automate this process. Rather than relying all those human checks and balances, that are subject to people meeting and taking decisions. We can get ahead of them, by creating like randomized system of allocating cases to judges, instead of the head of the Supreme Court, the president of appeal court, for example, is to appoint judges to sit on this particular case. It should be randomized. Then when you throw the name of all the judges in court of appeal, or it randomly select those that are going to function, are those that are going to be in charge of this case.
Can we trust the system we already have? Because I know that you don't just can we trust that it will truly be?
No, you don't just bring trust from nowhere. It should be, the trust should be predicated on what is happening. The outcome has shown that what we have is not trustworthy. So we have to get ahead of that. You don't just say, let's trust you. If you just trust you, that's what we are saying. We have just trusted them and it hasn't worked. And people's trust, you cannot enforce people's trust. But what Osinbajo is saying, that all over the world, people have gone ahead of just trust me for trusting quotes. If I say, okay, bring in your PIN number, the bank, do they trust you on usage of your card? No, you simply have to put your 4-digit PIN. For your 4-digit PIN shows that you are the owner. So that's what Osinbajo is saying. We should put those automated systems. And he also admonished us that judges should simply focus on education issues. Education, they should follow on real judgment. Education, leave issues of procurement, all those ways, and ancillary administrations for the professionals who are trained to do so. Judges should simply focus on what they are trained to do. So
just adjudicate.
Yes, that's all. That's what he's talking about.
Here's what I'm going to ask you. Let's go back to like the top of the article here, where Osinbajo was talking about, cases can take 14 years. And whatnot. What's the cause? I know an average Nigerian is sitting and thinking, why would a case take that long?
You see, in for opening speech, he did mention the reason why cases, stay forever in courts, because one single judge in Nigeria is specialized in all the areas of law. It's not as if he doesn't have knowledge of all the areas of law, but when a man is saddled with too much responsibility, then you don't get the best out of the man. The burden on the judiciary is much. Nigerians should go into specialization. We should have criminal courts who are saddled with criminal cases. We should have, like in America, you have a child and marriage and divorce family courts. They have their own responsibility to try matters that has to do with the family. Just like that.
Now I know that when I was leaving school, they were encouraging. They had just started in the Faculty of Law. They had just started criminology. It was a course on its own. That was in the University of Jos at the time when we were leaving, and they were encouraging a good number of us to, probably go get our masters done in criminology, and the ones coming, instead of going to store law generally, study, what's it called now, criminology and all that. And that was done, and that's quite a while ago. Is there anything beyond, introducing it into schools? Is there any system that has been put in place to say, there are people who are studying just this aspect of law and they're specializing in it? I know that abroad, I think in the West, especially in the US, you can have a major in one aspect of law. You could be a business lawyer. You could be a divorce lawyer, whatever it is. Do we have a system in place that would make you, that would encourage law practitioners to specialize?
Not in this country. That's what he said it, and that's what I re-emphasize, re-echo. You see, here what we have when you are in the foreign is what we call as general practitioners. You practice everything about the law, which is not supposed to be. But if we don't have any system in place that, this should be part of the reform we're talking about. The reform should be that, look, we should have, a tax lawyer, we should have business lawyer, so that they will be reduced, and also the courts should be also be spread out. You have family court, migration court, and all the rest of them, so that lawyers that have cases that has to do with immigration or with divorces, with criminal cases, they know where they channel their case to. So the judge also know that, you see, it also we make the judge to be perform better, because we bring the best out of it, because that is what he will be doing every day in, day out. You see, we specialize more and more, because the research will be narrowed to a particular area of law, and that will also reduce people not getting justice. It will encourage and build up the confidence of the society towards the bench. But as it is today, we are not going anywhere.
Well, that's very sad. Now, rebuilding the trust in the judicial system in the country is pivotal. At this point, it is very, very sacrosanct that we get that done. One way that can be done is if we actually pay attention to the actual people, the actual individuals who can tell us what to do. Put aside every other interest, because if Nigeria works for one, it works for all. And until we are all safe in this country, no one is. Like I always end every broadcast, we do not have a leadership problem in Nigeria. What we do suffer from is a people problem. You want to fix the leadership? Fix the people. Have a beautiful